JR 2004 is our Article 5 Constitutional Convention. And we have obviously been here around this table for this before, very specific language in order to match some other states. And there are some amendments.
The chair recognizes Representative Zabner for Amendment 2710.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment is very simple. It says that Iowa cannot send a delegate to the convention in a year where Iowa is running a budget deficit ourselves. The proposal is all about forcing the United States federal government to have a balanced budget. I think that's a great goal, but I think it's a little backwards for us to be pushing for it when Iowa's in a $1.2 billion structural deficit. I think this would encourage fiscal responsibility in the state of Iowa that's sorely missing, and I'd ask for your support.
Are there any questions or comments on the amendment? Seeing none, chair recognizes Representative Zabner for closing comments. Representative Zabner moves.
I requested move it and request division.
You did have, I'm sorry, I didn't see your light. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Convention of States, Representative Zabner, you've been on this committee with me for many years, and you know it's very specific as what we're pushing forward. Right now, the state, our state is in a $1.9 billion surplus, and that comes from LSA. I don't disagree that we should be spending money if we don't have it, but under our control, we've been very cautious to our budgeting, so I would recommend a no vote on the amendment.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, chair recognizes Representative Zabner for
Thank you, Madam
closing
Chair.
comments.
I move the amendment and I request a division in the record.
Representative Zabner moves amendments 2710. Division and record. Take roll, please.
Representative Bloomingdale,
No.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Nielsen, Representative Baith, Representative Bergen, Representative Bossman, Representative Collins, Representative Cooling, Representative Dunwell,
No.
Representative Harris, Representative Hora, Representative C. Johnson, Representative R. Johnson, Representative Jones, Representative Lundgren, Representative McBurney, Representative Segrist, Representative Srinivas, Representative Wills, Representative Wolf, Representative Zabner.
Aye.
7 nays, 14 yeas.
With a vote of 7-14, the amendment fails. Chair recognizes Representative Zabner for Amendment 2696.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment is also pretty simple. It would ensure that our delegate to the Convention of States would fight for constitutional amendment ensuring access to reproductive freedom. We've seen birthing centers close in places like Newton. Iowa is one of the last states in terms of OBGYNs per capita. The result of Iowa's draconian 6-week abortion ban has been devastating for people in our state. I think reproductive freedom constitutional amendment would have broad support at a convention of states, and I want to make sure that our delegate would support it.
Are there any comments or questions for Representative Zabner? Chair recognizes Representative Lundgren.
I would just say again that the specific resolution that we were putting forward matches some other states. This would change that, which is something that we cannot do. I would also suggest if the Democrats would like to do their own HJR resolution, they could do that with some of their own amendments. So I'm going to suggest a no vote.
Chair recognizes Representative Zabner for closing comments on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the amendment and I call for division.
Representative Zabner moves Amendment 2696 with division record. Clerk will take roll, please.
Representative Bloomingdale,
No.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Nielsen, Representative Baith, Representative Bergen, Representative Bossman, Representative Collins, Representative Cooling, Representative Dunwell,
No.
Representative Harris, Representative Hora, Representative C. Johnson, Representative R. Johnson, Representative Jones, Representative Lundgren, Representative McBurney, Representative Segrist, Representative Srinivas, Representative Wells, Representative Wolf, Representative Zabner, 7 yeas, 14 nays.
With a vote 7-14, the amendment fails. Chair recognizes Representative Zabner for Amendment 2695.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are efforts in Congress to repeal the Affordable Care Act. This amendment would call for our delegate to ensure there is a constitutional amendment at the Convention of States that would protect Iowans with pre-existing conditions from losing their health insurance.
Chair recognizes Representative Lundgren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'm going to ask the body to resist this. As I have explained, we're putting forth a very specific Article 5 Constitutional Convention, and this does not work with what we are working on today.
Any other questions or comments? Chair recognizes Representative Zabner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's important to protect Iowans with pre-existing conditions. I'd ask for your support. I move the amendment and I request a division of the record.
With that, Representative Zabner moves Amendment 2695 of the division of record. Clerk will take roll, please.
Representative Bloomingdale,
No.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Nielsen, Representative Bates, Representative Bergen, Representative Bossman, Representative Collins, Representative Cooling, Representative Dunwell, Representative Harris, Representative Hora, Representative C. Johnson, Representative R. Johnson, Representative Jones, Representative Lundgren, Representative McBurney, Representative Segrist, Representative Srinivas, Representative Wills, Representative Wolf, Representative Zabner,
Aye.
With a vote of 7-14, the amendment fails. Chair recognizes Representative Zabner for Amendment 2694.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment would call for Iowa's delegate to curtail the presidential tariff powers without the consent of Congress. Our president has imposed massive new taxes on Iowans that are raising costs. They're devastating our farmers. We've lost thousands of manufacturing jobs in the state of Iowa as a result of Trump's tariffs. They're a disaster for everyday Iowans and for our economy. And I think if there's going to be a convention of states to curtail presidential power, one of the most important things they could do is stop the president from unilaterally taxing Iowans and destroying our industries.
Are there any questions or comments for Representative Zabner? Chair recognizes Representative Lundgren.
Again, same. We obviously have a very specific application that we have here before us today. Making any changes makes it more difficult for us to call a convention with the other states. So I am going to ask the body to resist the amendment.
Are there any other questions or comments? Chair recognizes Representative Zabner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Manufacturing workers, farmers, consumers are really struggling under the weight of these tariffs. I'd ask you to help them. I move the amendment and I request a division of the record.
With that, Representative Zabner moves Amendment 2694 for the division of record. Clerk will take roll, please.
Representative Bloomingdale,
No.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Nielsen, Representative Bates, Representative Bergen, Representative Bossman, Representative Collins, Representative Cooling, Representative Dunn, Representative Harris, Representative Hora, Representative C. Johnson, Representative R. Johnson, Representative Jones, Representative Lundgren, Representative McBurney, Representative Segrist, Representative Srinivas, Representative Wills, Representative Wolf, Representative Zabner,
With a vote of 7-14, the amendment fails. Chair recognizes Representative Zabner for Amendment 2693.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The text of this House Joint Resolution 2004 calls for a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. One of the issues with that is that hundreds of thousands of Iowans have been paying for years into Social Security and are now benefiting from the benefits that they've earned. Under this proposed constitutional amendment, the Social Security Trust Fund would have to balance every year, which would mean that it wouldn't be able to use those funds which have already been paid in by Iowans. There are over 600,000 Iowans that rely on Social Security, and that fund would be rendered insolvent day one of this constitutional amendment. I'd ask this body to support the Iowans who rely on Social Security every month.
Are there any comments or questions? Chair recognizes Representative Lundgren.
Again, I'd ask the body to resist this amendment for the same reasons.
Any other questions or comments? Chair recognizes Representative Zabner for closing comments on Amendment 2693.
We all have constituents who have earned these benefits and are counting on them. I'd move the amendment and I request a division of the record.
With that, Representative Zabner moves Amendment 2693 with the division of records. Clerk will take roll, please.
Representative Bloomingdale,
No.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Nielsen, Representative Bates, Representative Bergen, Representative Bossman, Representative Collins, Representative Cooling, Representative Dunwell,
No.
Representative Harris, Representative Cora, Representative C. Johnson, Representative R. Johnson, Representative Jones, Representative Lundgren, Representative McBurney, Representative Segrist, Representative Srinivas, Representative Wills, Representative Wolf, Representative Zabner,
With a vote of 7 to 14, the amendment fails, and we are back on the bill on House Joint Resolution 2004. The chair recognizes Representative Lundgren.
All right, thank you. I do appreciate my colleagues' creativity across the aisle, taking this as a platform for your talking points. But this is obviously a very specific application to the Convention of States, and I appreciate that my colleagues on our side recognize that it's important to send it as is. Obviously, later on, we will have also a faithful delegate bill that will determine how we send and choose our delegates and how we can recall a delegate if they're doing anything outside of what this prescribes. And with that, I just move the bill.
Are there any comments or questions? Representative Zabner?
600,000 Iowans, over 600,000 Iowans are relying on Social Security benefits, which they have earned. A yes vote is a vote to take away those benefits from over 600,000 Iowans.
Chair recognizes Representative Lundgren for closing comments.
This will be the first time we've disagreed on those comments, Representative Zabner. But again, we have a very specific constitutional requirement here, and what we are applying for matches other states that have already passed this. So I do request that our colleagues vote yes to this bill.
With that, Representative Lundgren moves House Joint Resolution 2004. Clerk will take roll, please.
Representative Bloomingdale,
Aye.
Representative Smith,
Pass.
Representative Nielsen,
No.
Representative Bath, Representative Bergen, Representative Bossman, Representative Collins, Representative Cooling, Representative Dunwell, Representative Harris, Representative Cora, Representative C. Johnson, Representative R. Johnson, Representative Jones, Representative Lundgren, Representative McBurney, Representative Segrist, Representative Srinivas, Representative Wills, Representative Wolf, Representative Zabner, Representative Smith,
Aye.
Representative Segrist. Sorry.
You get to vote twice again. 2 votes for Segrist.
13 yeas, 8 nays.
To the vote of 13 to 8, House Joint Resolution will move to the floor. Is there any other business to come to the floor? I have one comment.
All right, welcome back to COS Live. My name is Andrew Luce, and I'm joined by Rita Peters, who is the Senior VP of Legislation. You have been watching our Article 5 application in committee. It was in the Iowa House Committee on State Government. It was referred to as HJR 2004. A vote was taken 13 to 8 in favor, so our resolution now goes to the full House for debate and for passage. We're going to be expecting Regional Director Karen Schuster, who's an Iowa native, in just a few minutes to kind of give us a recap and just some of the thoughts of the grassroots that are there in Des Moines. She's on the ground, and I'm sure she's really excited that we had a favorable vote. Rita, before we get to Karen, there was a lot that happened in that committee. We got to do a quick recap before we bring in Karen. Over to you for that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, Andrew, that we actually didn't hear much, if any, back and forth from the committee members on the resolution itself. What we heard was one Democrat member of that committee offer a series of amendments, in other words, language he wanted to add to our COS application. Everything from enshrining abortion into the Constitution to keeping Iowa from participating unless they have a balanced budget, just some really crazy things, limiting President Trump's power to impose tariffs. So he basically took up a bunch of time for this committee, and, you know, every one of those amendments failed. Of course, it's really important that our COS application keep consistent with the 20 other state applications that have already passed, because the way the states define the subject matter for the convention in their applications matters. Once it's called, the convention will be limited to the subject matter specified in the 34 applications that lead to the calling of the convention. So, yeah, he was just wasting everybody's time. It was a little bit frustrating. I thought the committee seemed very patient. We have a lot of big supporters on that committee, including the chair of the committee, Representative Bloomingdale, as well as the chair of the subcommittee that recommended passage of this bill. That was Representative Lundgren, all big supporters and have been very vocal and helpful in their support of Convention of States. They know it's time for the states to use this power. Now, I know we're expecting Karen Schuster to join us from the ground. And one more thing to note, Andrew, in most states, it's the committee hearing that gives us the public testimony. The members of the public have the opportunity to offer their support or their opposition, but it doesn't work that way in Iowa. If you were with us last week, you saw the Iowa subcommittee is where they take public testimony, and then they don't do that at the committee level. However, I want to point out that the committee does accept online public comments for or against the legislation. And I looked there to see what kind of comments had been posted about a half an hour or so before the committee started. And there were 66 favorable public comments and only one in opposition. I thought that was very telling and just love seeing that.
Yeah, Rita, it seems that Representative Zagner's on a very small island with that one person who submitted some opposition testimony. Yeah, he's just I've never seen that before, Rita. I mean, we've been doing the COS Live together for several years, and I've never seen someone just give a flurry of amendments to our resolution that are just basically progressive talking points. I mean, that's what it was. And you were right that the committee was being very gracious and patient with him. But I mean, he was just wasting their time, and he knew that he was in the minority. He knew that he really was not going to have any effect on the resolution itself or it being pulled out of committee. So it seems like he was just kicking and screaming. So I did notice one thing, though. We hear a lot that when we get to a convention that there's going to be people who are offering wild amendments, and it's going to get hijacked by progressives, or it's going to get hijacked by other bad operatives. And I think you just have to watch how a committee room works. If someone is offering crazy stuff, it just gets drowned out by reason. And that's what happened. This guy got drowned out by reason. And you know what? He didn't take control of the committee and pass all and force all of his amendments. Same thing's going to happen at a convention. You can't just force stuff. There are rules. There are way things work. There's procedure. And you know what? We're not going to get crazy amendments, because all the amendments that we are supporting, all the topics, those are popular across the country, right, left, and center. So it doesn't look like we have Karen just yet. Maybe she's got some technical issues, so she'll be joining us in just a few minutes. What's next to happen in Iowa, Rita, now that we've gone through the committee?
I'm glad that you asked that, Andrew, because this too is a little bit different than a lot of other states. And a lot of states, once a bill or resolution passes through the committee, it automatically goes to the floor and gets put on the calendar for the next series of votes. It's a little bit different in Iowa. If you remember, last year we passed committee in Iowa, but we never got put on the calendar for the full chamber floor vote. That's what we need to happen next. And it's going to take an outpouring of support from Iowans to make sure that leadership in Iowa understands that the people of Iowa want the House to pass this COS application and add Iowa to that list of 20 states that have already applied. And Andrew, it looks like we have Karen now.
We do have Karen. Here she comes.
Yay!
Karen, good to see you. You look
Hello.
very excited. How you doing, Karen?
Thanks.
How you feeling?
Very good, very good. It was always a little nervous before we actually get that vote, and we waited a long time to hear what the results were going to be, as we had to wait nearly an hour for caucus and then again to be at the bottom of the agenda. have felt like a nail biter, but the vote turned out very well. We're very happy, very pleased.
And Karen, it seemed to me like we picked up at least one vote. I couldn't hear the responses of everyone, folks who weren't sitting right next to a microphone, I guess. But didn't we pick up at least one vote more than we thought we would have? That's what it sounded like to me.
Yes, we did. We were just missing one Republican vote, and the rest of the Republicans all voted for it. Democrats all against, which in Iowa, a red state like Iowa, typically the Democrats are not going to vote for something like this. So we expected that.
Mm-hmm. Karen, what moment stood out to you in that hearing?
Well, as you probably heard, there were several amendments that seemed more like Representative Zabner wanted to do some talking points. I think he knew it was inevitable that it was going to pass, so he took his moment. But it's very encouraging. We've been fighting this fight for a number of years, and Representative Lundgren has been a faithful sponsor. Representative Bloomingdale, the chair, has always been so supportive of us, and we really appreciate the leadership that's in support. And the representatives have been faithful year after year, and we're hoping that this is our year, that we won't have to do this again this year, or after this year we'll be passed.
Amen to that. And Karen, do you want to explain what happens next as far as how we get to the next stage, which would be a full House floor vote?
Right. We've got 4 weeks because we have this is a funnel week where if you don't get out of a full committee this week, then you are dead for the rest of the year. So we have 4 weeks now, starting next week, to get through the full floor vote of the House and pass a full Senate committee. And we have a new majority leader in the House, and he is a strong supporter of Convention of States, so we're very hopeful that he will actually bring a resolution to the floor this year. So it's looking better than it has in a number of years.
Wow, it sounds like you got your work cut out for you over the next 4 weeks. What can our viewers do who are from Iowa? What's the call to action to get them to get us across the finish line in the House?
Always reach out to your representatives and let them know that you would like them to support Convention of States, offer to answer any of their questions that they might have.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Karen, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for all that you're doing there on the ground in Des Moines, and for being on COS Live 2 weeks in a row. It's great to have you back, and I can't wait to have you back once we get through the House. Our prayers are with you and with the entire Iowa team, and can't wait to have you back. Until then, keep up the great work in Des Moines.
Well, thank you both so much. I really appreciate the work that you do as well.
All right, Rita. Well, we're going to sign off in just a few minutes, but we have more action coming up later on today. Can we cover that real quick before we sign off?
Yeah, so everybody is going to want to tune back in for our next live broadcast coming this afternoon from Wyoming, where we will be in the Senate Judiciary Committee. That's after the Senate voted by a supermajority vote to introduce our COS application, even in a budget-only session. So that's pretty amazing. That committee hearing will probably be fairly brief because the committee is swamped with work with not a lot of time to do it. So we're going to be respectful of their time and try to keep our testimony brief, but you'll want to see that. And yeah, that's what's coming next today in, just maybe an hour or so, right, Andrew?
Yep. Yeah. Very exciting. We have another busy week. We had a busy week last week. I'm really excited for this victory in Iowa. Looking forward to more victories in Iowa and looking forward to more victories across the nation. So we'll get back to it in about an hour in Wyoming. Until then, make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel. That's where we have our COS Live broadcasted. You can subscribe there by going to conventionofstates.com/COS Live. That way you don't miss any notifications when we do go live. You'll get a reminder that we have some committee action or a vote on in the full chamber when those notifications come up. So you definitely want to have that subscribed so you can tune in. Make sure that you're tuning in also to the Battle Cry. It's Sunday nights with COS President and Founder Mark Meckler. But until then, we got more work to do. We'll see you back here in an hour. And pray for our state teams across the nation to get the job done.